Welcome to the podcast. This is a space where we tap into our truth, our essence, where we go to the depths within to seek our wounding and find a way to transmute it. These conversations will not only set ourselves up for amazing changes within our lives, but will also allow us to hold space for those around us. I believe that through these conversations, we will start to heal the feminine and tap into our divine essence. And then we will be able to hold space for the divine masculine, calling them up to a greater version of themselves. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful humans. I'm so excited to be back here, of course. In the last podcast, we talked about self-mastery, my definition of self-mastery. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, this would be my invitation to head on back and listen to that first, if that feels good. But in, re-listening to that podcast myself and connecting with the things that came through, the things that are truth for me, it really got me thinking about what that connection, how important that connection to self is, how important that relationship to self is, how important developing trust with self has also, it's such a key part for me in my healing journey and as I continue to navigate things in my life. Really learning about my human design, like developing more or undergoing mentorship for human design so that I could teach others, and really exploring that and stepping into and using that as the guiding principles, the guiding light of how I live my everyday life has been so beautiful. And it really has been, made more possible by a deeper connection with my body. Now, as I say that, I hesitate because it feels a little bit like which came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it, stepping into human design and my strategy and my authority that allowed me to connect deeper with my body? Or was it cultivating a deeper relationship with my body that allowed me to hear and explore nuances of my human design? I think it's both and. I think, they probably work in accordance with one another. But through the process of finding ways to connect with my body, learning about human design was very powerful, but learning different ways that my body spoke to me, learning what felt really good in my body and how my body liked to be connected to was really important. And for me, that looks like, sitting quietly in the morning, listening to Hertz music, setting some intentions with my cacao, pulling cards, journaling, yoga. I really do love yoga, and like flow yoga I'm really into, where you're matching movement with breath. I also really like yin yoga, which is more of like holding poses. That one, yin yoga, is always this beautiful moment of me realizing, it tends to be a moment of me realizing how far I've come, because you're in poses for anywhere for 3 to 7 minutes, and it is hard to, in those three, even if it's 3 minutes, like your mind can be racing, it can be relaxed, it's just like this beautiful exploration and moment, forced stop of where you really get to see what comes up from inside. That's how it happens for me anyway. The other ways that I connect to my body are walking in nature, water. Oh my gosh, swimming, having a bath, having a shower, just being near water, walking near water is so deeply therapeutic for me. Food is another way. Movement and food. My body lately has been craving very light foods. I have been going through a deep season of cleansing and purging and being called to more plant medicines and working with a shaman on a couple different experiences. And so my body is really asking for things that feel light. Lots of veggies, fruit, soups, salads, not a lot of red meat. I'm no dairy, not like sugar is very limited. It just wants to feel very light, lots of water. So those are some ways in which I've noticed, my body, I can connect with my body. And when I do those things, that my body is like so happy. And the way that I feel that is not only in my excitement, but it's also energy giving. When I do those things and I have those practices in my life, it's like I receive more energy. And so there's this beautiful way that I've learned to connect with my body. And so that I'm noticing now, in this space where, in this moment of time, I'm in this deep purging. I'm in this recalibration, reorientation of my life, of people in my life, of places in my life, of things in my life. And this is where I've had to call on an even deeper level of trust in my body, an even deeper level of trust in my design, a deeper level of trust in my knowing, my intuition, my connection to the universe, to source, to self. I keep being asked to hold so much space and create so much spaciousness in my life. And I mean, like, at this point in time, whenever I try to put more things on my calendar, they just get wiped out. Like, not even by my doing. It's like something happens and that thing can't go through, or something happens and like it's just removed from my calendar. And what I keep being asked to do is meditate. Meditation and meditating has been coming through very strongly, and to trust my guidance, and to work with my mind, with what I would call my human, in order to unravel the thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that I have around doing and productivity. So if you've listened to podcasts past, you'll have heard that, as a child, I have had a very deep interweaving of this idea of productivity and worth, and, really needing to be productive in order to feel like valid and validated and loved and worthy. That's not as present for me anymore. What feels most present for me right now is productivity and like satisfaction. So my signature I'm a manifesting generator. And so my signature in my human design, or how I know that, my energy is on the right path, is this feeling of like satisfaction or peace. And so I'm noticing right now how there's like this transition, how all of these things are being removed off my calendar, that when I'm in a state of deep trying or pushing or being in my masculine energy, and not from a guidance standpoint, not from an internal wisdom standpoint, not from a following my yeses, from my body, but just in a trying to create things, those things get wiped completely off of my calendar. All of this spaciousness is created. And what I noticed the other day was this feeling of contentment, this feeling of peace, this feeling of having nothing to do on my calendar, and feeling so grateful, feeling so at ease, feeling so peaceful that, even when my mind conjures up the worries and the fear, when I tap back into my body, when I close my eyes and just sit and ask myself, like, what is currently happening within? All I feel is peace. And so I have learned over time that my body and trusting my body has been the greatest navigator for me in my life. And while what is happening around me doesn't currently make a lot of sense, where I don't understand exactly the direction, that offers are happening in my business or mentorship or what's coming next. When I tap into my body, there is just this deep sense of calm and peace. And the one story that I'm constantly reminded of when I do this is my very first ayahuasca journey. So in March of 2023, I booked an ayahuasca journey. It was my first sitting with the medicine. And I think I booked it the previous like September or October. So September or October of 2022, I had booked the experience and I was going in March of 2023. And anytime somebody asked me about like whether or not I was nervous or I was afraid, I would, honestly say like, no. And because I wasn't, I had no fear within me. It was so interesting. Like anytime that I thought about things or even tried to conjure up fear, like really thought about what I would be nervous about or fearful about, the only thing I could really think of is like, purging or puking. I don't like being sick. I don't like puking. There's something about that experience that it just, ugh. And, but even when I thought about that and like, I tried to like, just sit with it, there was never any nervousness in my body. There was never any anxiety. And when I say none, I mean none. Like even to the point where my mind was like, what is happening? Like, how is this possible? Like, I just couldn't understand it, but my body was just so clear, so consistent. And every time I tapped into my body, it was like just peace. And that's very much what I feel right now. It's like I can't fully understand what experiences are coming. I can't fully understand or know how things are going to evolve or transition. But what I do know is that there's no urgency in my body. There's no, when I really tap into my body at this current moment, it is, asking for like rest and nesting, being very much in that calm, quiet, receptive, meditative state. And so just trusting that that will be okay, trusting that that's available. And, it's been really interesting because, somebody said to me the other day, I was doing a little bit of Reiki work, and it was my Reiki healer who's been a spiritual mentor for me for a long time, is a really good friend of my mom's, her best friend. And she said to me, trust is coming up in this session, but that's so interesting. Like you do deeply trust yourself. I was like, I do, but it's always an evolution. It's an evolution of trust in myself. It's an evolution of trust in my body. It's an evolution of trust of the messages that are coming through for me and following those. And so it is an evolution. And thankfully I have now created evidence for myself of trusting my body and it being okay. And it not just being okay, but it working out way better than I could have ever anticipated. Receiving things that don't make any sense in a timing that don't make sense, like just be beyond expectation, beyond anything that I could contemplate or dream up. But that's not always the case when it comes to trusting myself, when it comes to tapping back into this body wisdom. There are times and spaces where it really just requires trusting the unknown. And I think which isn't always easy. Like sometimes for me, when I don't have evidence within myself, the things that I do is I look for evidence for the belief that I want to curate outside of me. So what I mean by this is, a while back when I wanted to create a business that was heart-led and frequency first and really like honoring the energetics, honoring my human design, I looked for women, particularly women in business, that were talking about things like that were doing things like that. I hired a mentor that was operating like that. I actually hired two mentors that were operating like that. And to just learn from them, to learn how they thought, to learn to create more evidence in my own life for what was available. But there's not always evidence. There's not always evidence and evidence that I've created for myself or evidence that I see in other people in the gap. And so, what do we do in those situations? And for me, that looks like, tapping back into my body, tapping back into my body's wisdom. I believe that my body is connected to source, the universe, universal understanding, something far beyond that I can currently comprehend or may ever comprehend with my mind. And so it's really trusting a wisdom that's beyond me, something that's greater than me, and sitting with and holding space for something new, releasing stories, allowing the stories that are coming up, allowing the projections that are coming up, allowing any of the fears or anxieties or anything that my mind conjures up, allowing all of that and just sitting with it and seeing, why that might be, but then also just again tapping into my body and sitting with the truth of what is. And right now, that for me is peace. That for me is everything is okay. And so how we can cultivate that within is like giving ourselves more space and time, giving ourselves different ways that we can connect with the body and learn how it's speaking to us. Our bodies are always speaking to us. Each one of us has a different human design, and there's different ways that our body will help lead us to the decisions that are for our divine purpose. But it is still in connection with the body. Some people say it's like from ego to heart or from mind to soul, really just like this deep connection within. And so my offering to you is like, how does this feel? This is even one way that you can tap into your body. How does it feel as you're hearing my words? Does it feel resonant? Is there something there that feels like you don't know why, but it almost creates calm and peace to listen to what it is I'm saying? That there's a resonance in your soul. There's a resonance in the cells of your body are just radiating a little bit differently or pinging a little bit differently. Or does it feel like a contraction? Does it feel like a no? And can you trust that whatever it is that you're feeling is true and right for you right now? Because the other experience of listening to my body is not only about, my body doesn't just give me the right things for me, like the things that are yes and a no, like the right actions to take, but it also helps me cultivate the right timing for things. So things that I know I want to do at some point, or that I know, like ideas that I have, it's not just about putting any idea I have out into the world, but really cultivating the timing of what is right based on this greater wisdom. So if this is something that you're intrigued about, you can find ways to tap into your own body. My offering to you is just explore what your body is saying to you. Explore what your mind is saying to you. Explore what might be in the way of trusting your body. Explore ways that you can cultivate examples within yourself of new evidence or new way of being, something that feels really good, something that feels peaceful, something that feels aligned for you, in my experience, will end up giving you the most beautiful opportunities, things that are beyond your imagination, if you can cultivate a little bit of this trust and connection within. This episode is brought to you by the Sisterhood Dinner Series. The Sisterhood Dinner Series is for female entrepreneurs and women looking to connect with like-minded hearts and souls, those that are dedicated to their growth, their evolution, and are looking to have different, deep conversation. We are here to hold in-person space and create a community of women looking to grow together. If this is something that you want to be a part of, please check out my Instagram at Exponential Alchemy. Thank you for listening. It is my absolute honor, pleasure to hold these conversations, to have a space for these transmissions to come through. It is my belief that through these conversations, we start to heal ourselves and send ripples out into the world. I know you are ready for this. I know the world is ready for this. If you are already thinking of someone else who needs to hear this podcast, I would be absolutely honored for you to share it. And if we're not already friends on Instagram, please come find me at Exponential Alchemy. I will see you soon.